Kahalayullah Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rekaha Kodash. And double honors unto the elders and apostles of GMS who taught us truth, who still teaching and pushing this truth. And peace and blessings and salutations into the hopeful election. That you hopefully elect ladies and your children as well, man. And it's Rakash Wild. And I want to get into this today. I feel I'm gonna start doing this a little bit more. Um, start recording I guess you could say videos that I've seen and just edifying on these, man, because really we living in prophecy, man. We're walking in it now. But as far as, the things to come, man, they're going to come down the pipe. I want to play this first one, you know. Actually, let me get this verse first. You know, Sirach 31. Sirach 31 and 5. It says, actually, let's start at verse 4. It says, the poor laboreth in his poor estate. And when he leave off, he is still needy, man. He is still needy because, taxes, that be all these uncalled for taxes that keep us in a system of, where you can't buy, enough food. Or you can't, buy you don't have enough for your means. Even if you make a lot of money, you're getting taxed out of that shit, man. So who's not getting taxed by these things? Those that really are in bed with the elite, man, or one of the elite of this world, which is going to crumble. It says, "He that loveth gold shall not be justified, and he that followeth corruption shall have enough thereof." Man, he that loveth gold shall not be justified, and he that loveth corruption shall have enough thereof. So anybody who's living off of the corruption that they built up, um, pretty much America, right? Living off the corruption that is built up off the backs and the enslavement and the work, the hardcore work labor force of the Northern Kingdom, and then the Southern Kingdom too, obviously through slavery, but with keeping it modern, these different corporations, as for this video, these different corporations that import all these different our brothers and sisters from the Northern Kingdom, they make a lot of money off of these off our people, man. Their work is cheap labor, So anytime you're dealing with cheap labor, you don't have to. You're not, you're not paying into their health care. You don't have to pay into their health care. You don't have to, you're not getting taxed off of, your own, corporation, because businesses get taxed too. So it's a huge profit on them, you know. So that's why I reference taxes a lot, man, because taxes really got everybody, man. You know, because you're under the illusion that you need. Well, you're not under the illusion because now you kind of do. I mean, nobody wants to get shot with nukes and shit, right? And robot dog. We're gonna get into all that in this video, man. You know, it says that he that followeth corruption shall have enough thereof. So they have enough. But it also says that this man will not be satisfied with blood, man. They raped, robbed, and killed and murdered our people, man. For the riches that they've been able to obtain, the stealing of the lands, the resources, the knowledge, the wisdom, the dumbing down, the psychologically dumbing down the people and telling them that they're not the true people, and pretty much, you know, uh, investing trillions and trillions of dollars to fund these different programs, man. The media program, MK Ultra, so on and so forth, man. Man, so many. It's fucking crazy, man. But it says, gold have been the ruin of many, man, and their destruction was present, man. Gold have been the ruin of many, and their destruction was present. We're living in the present of this devil's kingdom. The golden cup, right, is about to get crushed, man. This golden cup that's been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, man. Meaning, all the nations got rich off her. They used the vibration of the people to get themselves rich, and they gonna pay for it too, because they use Jake in the neighborhoods, Ishmaelites and Moabites, you know, they use you in your neighborhoods as well. But they don't want to do business with you, but they're okay with you being a president. They're okay with you being in the position you're in. Like the Lord said, he looked and he saw that there was none to help, man. They're okay with us being in the position we're in as long as they're benefiting off the shit they benefiting. So this is what the Lord said he's gonna do. Let me get that real quick before I go on. Because I'm babbling now. You know. Isaiah 59:17, this is what the Lord said he's gonna do. It says, "For he put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation upon his head, and he put on the garments of vengeance for clothing." It said, "And the clad was a zeal." It said, "And was clad with zeal as a cloak," man. You know, so pretty much the Lord is going to pretty much, send his son back to do his will, man. Once just like he did with ancient Egypt, man. You know. Let me get this real quick. Play this real quick. I had this little clip, man. Because this is what's coming. Now, this goes into they shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to, but we'll get that after we play the clip.
And just for me. From one podcast, Elon Musk did hint that I do actually have a Buxball, yeah. You do? It's a prototype Buxball. That's down in South Texas. Yep. At the time, many thought it was just a quirky experiment. But then he added, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true. Those weren't just casual.
And like you said, seriously, sometimes they turn out to be true because who's controlling the narrative? We know that behind the closed doors, all these things that they're doing, they're actually doing. That the prophets been bringing out. You got your whistleblowers from the Pizza Gates to the MK Ultra to the super soldiers to the experimentation on children, the experimentation on animals and birds, in the air quality, in your blood and the data, them stealing your data, how that ties into, them trying to artificially create you. You're using your data and your blood to create another version of you, and so on and so forth, man. These devils are fucking wicked, man. Is moving on.
Comments. They were massive hints about Tesla's secret master plan for land free for the masses. And today, we'll show you the full mix of what Tesla is building with the introduction of tiny house villages to erase the crushing cost of land, and how you could one day own a Tesla home without worrying about where to put it. Stay tuned. We're closing in on 179,007.
And like you said, one day you can close on this. So one day is going to be the day when they decide to close down these different uh, stopping points to these cities, man, where these houses are going to be built, man. But you best believe, you see how it's electronic, got everything, just about everything you need in it. You best believe you're gonna have to take the chip to get it, man. You're gonna have to take the chip, man. And this is this devil's way of freeing you, man. Like, this is literally Black Mirror playing out in real life, man. But hey, to each their own, man. You take the chip you want to.
195 subscribers. So if you love being first to hear when Elon Musk drops something this explosive, tap subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next breakthrough. 1. How can Tesla build a 2026 tiny house for just $7,759? At first glance, it sounds impossible. How could Tesla build a livable, hurricane-tested, off-grid home for just $7,759 when the average prefab house in America costs between $55,000 to $80,000? The secret lies in Tesla's revolutionary approach to manufacturing homes, exactly like they manufacture cars. Tesla applied its gigafactory expertise directly to housing construction, mass-producing homes on automated assembly lines.
And this is gonna go, into the, your jobs, the job market of, just replacing humans with artificial technology. This is all gonna play into that, man. A false sense of reality, a false sense of, what's real, what's true, what's righteous and true, man. Let me get this real quick, and that's what these devils want. They want to replace you, motherfucker. It's not funny, but so lucky. It's 16. I should know that by now. Second age of 16. Slovakia. I just seen it, man. Here it is. Second age of 16. I'm gonna skip down. Second age of 16 and 22. It says, "For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. Other, and it says, and the other that escape shall the sword destroy." Now, why am I bringing this out? Because this is literally gradual, and they're gradually building people up. You see the homelessness, on the rise in certain areas. Jake's pretty much getting evicted. You know, hard to these different food shelter organizations running out of food. They can't feed the homeless and all this. These sort of things. And then you have people that's going to be getting evicted because they don't have the means, man. They don't have the money to pay the rent. They dealing with stress, and people gonna lose it, man. You know, they're gonna lose it, man. And then that's going to institute them bringing in these 15-minute cities. Some are, like I said, some are going to perish of famine. Like I said, if the Lord's taking dealing with you, you're going to be all right. But there's still a level. You got to keep that faith all the way into the end, man. Keep your integrity, man. As for myself, it says, this is second Corinthians 16 and 23. It says, "And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and uh, there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the city shall be cast down, man." You know, and this is in we literally seeing these different cities wherever we're at. Whether you be here in America or other parts of the world, man. These different riots. These different uh, break-ins going on all over the United States. All kind of shit, man. ICE deporting people unlawfully, illegally. Using illegal tactics at that. People dressing up as ICE. Coming in people's homes, and man, it's a mess right now. Second Ezra 16 and 47. It says, "And they that occupy the merchandise with robbery," it'd be your niggas, your Edomite, con artists, con men and shit. You know, you seen them burn the house of one of the Rothschild sons, man. People are gonna lose it, man. You know, it said they the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own purses, man, the more I will be angry with them for their sins, save the Lord, man. You know, so you see people, getting money and pretty much living the lifestyle, getting nice cars and driving it, pretty much trying to deck out their house, like it says, putting trees and shit in the yard, got the dog, dog and the cat, two-parent family type shit. At the end of the day, the Lord didn't say that He didn't put us here to be in the world, man. So if you're in this truth, you've been separated from that now, so that you don't fall into that. When the chip comes, people are going to take it, man. You clearly see why they're going to take it, man, because they're in love with the world. They're in love with the world, the devil's world, man. It says, surely in verse 63, man, it says, "Surely He know of your inventions." It says, "And what ye think in your hearts, even them that sin, it would hide their sin," man. That's you devils, man. You know, you think you the top elite devils. You think the Lord can't see you with all these different things. You try to hide it behind, the narrative, controlling the narrative, and just flagging people and telling them you can't talk about certain things, or you'll lock you up for saying certain shit. But at the end of the day, we already knew that was coming. Everything that needed to be said already has been said, from the elders and apostles on down, from the time from the time that this truth has got started by Elder Abba Bivens, man. You know, all the way down to now, man. From the YouTube era included to the era now, present time, right? So from then to now, you've just been getting whistleblowed on everything, you know. So you can't really. The Lord already seen you, So you really can't hide anywhere. You can't hide anywhere in the universe, man. Just give it up, man. It's a lot. I'm gonna play a little bit more, and just play the next clip.
Instead of building them one by one on construction sites. This single innovation slashes labor costs by 40%, compared to
You just heard us talk about that, man. And see, that's why these businesses are gonna end up getting rid of you because now it's cheaper labor. It's cheaper labor. They don't have to hire, Jose, or they don't have to hire, you know, Andre or whoever, man. You know what I'm saying? Lakeisha, Leandra. I'm not. There's nothing wrong with those names, man. I'm just, playing, putting a picture to words, man. When you hear those names, what you think of, man. So, at the end of the day, this is just their way of you know it, limiting the pretty much gradually getting you to have to invest into this system, man, this digital system, man, or you can't participate in their society. They're gonna weed out humans, man. And especially you Jake, man, they don't love it, man. They don't fucking fuck with us, man. Man, Jake, wake up, man. But you see, you're too prideful, man. You got that ego going. They don't give a damn about us, bro. So your ego is gonna be the reason why all this shit is wiped out.
traditional construction methods. When you can produce 20
Well, not your ego, but the ego that the Lord put into you to not repent. It's gonna be the reason why He destroys everything that you are trying to build up, man. That's what I was saying. You know, and He's starting with your luxuries, your finances, your comfortabilities. Your money. Only one's gonna be taken care of in that day is men and the Lord, man. They got to be understood.
homes in the time it takes to build one traditional house, the economics completely flip. But the real game changer is Tesla's material innovation. They've developed a new recyclable compressed fiber composite that costs 75% less than traditional lumber and weighs 40% less than steel. This is based on proven Tesla solar tile technology, adapted specifically for walls, insulation, and even built in furniture. The material performs better than traditional building supplies while costing a fraction of the price. Tesla's partnership with Boxable, a Las Vegas startup specializing in foldable, flat pack homes, also helps them reduce cost through revolutionary foldable prefab designs.
And like I said, it seems grand and grandiose. You don't have to worry no more. You can just sit in your house and chill. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to attend to the earth. You don't have to go outside and talk to people, be sociable to people like that anymore. But that's a part of that social credit system too, man. To even be able to participate in this world. You know, because China has a social credit system. They can deny you certain access to certain things based on the social credit system and your sociable skills in their economy, man, or in their civilization. It's gonna be the same thing here. You know, that's why the things that we teach, man. If you out there, we gonna be demonized, man. But the Lord is gonna take care of us too. You gotta believe that. But we gonna be demonized. You might get some jakes. Some niggas may get paid off to do some jakes in, or come after some of us. But at the end of the day, the Lord is going to take care of us, man. He's going to take care of you. So, don't fear anything that they come with. Fuck them. We've been waiting for this, right? I got this next video to show you. What they how they gonna come because Jake is gonna be resistant. The 15-minute cities to the being chipped and not being able to, yeah, okay, well then they gonna gather you up with these motherfuckers right here. Hold up.
Right now, new Bet365 customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets, win or lose. So you can turn that $300 into something bigger. It's never ordinary at Bet365.
And let me get this real quick too before I go into that. Let me get this verse. You know, Isaiah 3:9. Isaiah 3:9. It says, it's sort of 8, man. It says, for Jerusalem is ruined, the northern kingdom, and Judah is fallen, the southern kingdom, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord to provoke his eyes and glory. So, both our kingdoms, both our people, from the northern and the southern kingdom have fallen. They pretty much You know, the same thing that which is then is now. You know, they were allured by the societal, you know, I guess you say difference. They was allured by wanting to be like these other nations, man. These heathen, man. You know, and they did like the Lord said. They provoked the Lord, so the Lord provoked them to jealousy by dealing with the heathen. But what did the heathen do? They took 10,000 miles away. Well, particularly the Edomites and the other heathen. You know, they had they part into it too. So the Lord, you know, he planned the evil, a great evil for you, and we'll get that. It says the shoe of their countenance do witness against them, and they do declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their souls, for they have rewarded themselves. They have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say ye to the righteous, that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings, man. You know, who's the righteous? Jake, man. You know, Jake built this country, man, for the most part. Jake, wherever we've been scattered at, you built up that economy, man. You know, they use your labor, they use your, you know, intelligence, your hard work, whether you be, you know, Jake that was an inventor, had your inventions, you know, the knowledge of your inventions stolen, and you know your patents and all that. You know, we've pretty much have had all of our patents stolen too. You know, so you know to those that be in this truth, man, you got to believe that, man. You know, because there's nothing else in, you know, trusting in this devil. He's pretty much showing you where he's going to be at with it. It says, "Woe unto the wicked! It shall be ill with him, for for the reward of his hands shall be given to him, man. For as it says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, man. Children are their oppressors. These people in power, man, are children, bro. Yeah, all this power, and all you can think about doing is building rocket launchers and you know tanks and shit. You got starving people in the world. There's so much more you can be doing with your money. Granted, you done made yourself a vagabond and a fugitive, so we understand you. You want to protect yourself, but you've also been you made unrighteous decrees. You've done ill dealings, so that's your fault through your forefathers, and you still don't want to right those wrongs out of fear of your own judgment, and you should fear because you know at the end of the day, it's you should fear the heavenly Father. It's not your doing; it's the heavenly Father's doing. You know, that's why we are to fear the heavenly Father in our actions and our doing every day. And these people don't fear the heavenly Father; they show it, you know, in how they live their lifestyle, their ideologies, and so on and so forth, man. You know how they, you know, still have no remorse for what they've done to the southern and northern kingdom, the northern and the southern kingdom, however you want to tally that up. You feel me? They're both forms of slavery, where we've been scattered, you know, still going, still stealing your melanin, you know, they which they use for these to collect in these data, these different data centers and what have you, man. That's what the melanin usually. That's what it really goes in there into. Your data goes into this, you know, what they're trying, their technology, I should say. You know, your data goes into their AI technology to help their systems, you know, acknowledge you, I guess, on the grid, man. Literally facial recognition. I'm about to show you. Is this how they? This is just another way of how they oppress the poor, man. They set up these different, you know, laws, and they, you know, gradually, you know, weed you into it, and then if you take it on board, then you're in the system of more oppression, and you calling out to them as you know God. But at the end of the day, this man isn't God, and the Lord is tired of this place, man. So He's about to destroy this place, man. You know, their job is to take as many as you with them as they can, because He's a sore loser. Watch this.
On a machine. And DARPA was doing that right before 9/11. And people freaked out. They were like, you cannot put brain chips in rats and make them move through a maze by a remote control, which is what they were doing. And I interviewed the guys who were all working on this program before 9/11. And so,
and pretty much you can train AI, you know, with grid. You have a grid system, so they're going to be able to train this AI with your data and other data that pretty much they've collected, not just off your phone, but things you watch, you know, things you into. Cause that's what all data is, man. It's information on you, you know. So once they get information on you, you know, these robots, this robot world, this Terminator world that they want to build up, you know, they're trying to build their tolerance to human, I guess you could say, man. But it's a lot, man.
The 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 morality of the citizenry was like, no. Then 9/11 happened, and suddenly all this money got pumped into DARPA to do anything they wanted. The morality issue went out the window, and they started creating all kinds of biohybrids, as I write in the Pentagon's brain. So they put, they now have pigeons that are mixed, animal and machine.
What?
They created something called, there's a moth. So there's a Mandica sexta moth. That's what it's called. It's a large moth. And DARPA scientists put brain chips into the larva, okay, so that when it cocooned and became a flying moth, it had the chip built into its system, making it easier to integrate, and they could fly the moth around the lab. And that was a huge step. And this is now 4 years ago that I was interviewing these scientists.
You hearing this shit? And pretty much this is the same system that they want to use in collecting data and genetic coding. You know, this immortal, what they call trying to get the immortal gene, the immortal genetics, whatever the hell they call that thing that they was trying to do with CERN, man. You know, it's all real, man. You know, this is really real. It's about to get really real in your life. It's about to get real time real. You know, so as a brother, just respectfully and humbly, telling you, brothers and sisters, man, to really, really lock in, man. The videos is important, but at the end of the day, lock into to you, lock into you doing what you need to do. Honestly, man, whether it be fixing yourself, getting your mind right, where there's really nothing the Lord's gonna put the spirit on you to get right, but really listening to these videos, sealing yourself with the spirit, man. The spiritual understanding is what's gonna help you, man. But as far as the physical ailments, man, because it's gonna be it's not gonna be an easy time, man. You know, you want to make the preparations to the best of your ability, but if you trust in the Lord, you trust in Him, and you're suffering. We suffer differently, so I understand it. But hey, man, let me get this real quick, man. Show you this one, man. This was, I was, man, this shit.
What is this?
Well, some of the members like
SecDef at the time, the SecDef at the time that DARPA was created, Neil McElroy, an advertising executive who became the Secretary of Defense, he said he went to Congress to get the funding, and he said this agency is going to create the vast weapon systems of the future. That is what DARPA does. They are always 20 years ahead of anything that you or I know. So any technology that is like, what the hell was that I just saw and you're not supposed to have seen, that's DARPA. Right?
They were doing Neuralink in the 90s, right?
They are always doing things 20 years before you know about them, because they do what is called blue sky technology.
Blue sky
right?
research and technology, yes.
And they have to be ahead of the curve. They have to be,
amazing.
right?
Is DARPA the only, I mean, when it comes to this kind of stuff, like innovating weapons for defense and national security, that's probably the only thing, the only apparatus that exists that's doing unlimited blue sky sort of research and development, right? Because they have unlimited money.
That we know of, but nothing surprises me anymore. And so when you find out there's like some agency you've never heard of, it's like, oh, of course, right? Like look at NRO, the National Reconnaissance Organization, right? National Reconnaissance Office, okay? NRO was created in 1961. No one knew it existed until 1993 when it was declassified. So they were involved in the first satellites technology. So when I interviewed Dr. Bud Wheelon, who was the first director of science and technology at CIA. He identified himself as the mayor of Area 51 because he worked out there. And he built the first satellite called Corona. This is like back in the old days when it literally took wet film images, dropped the wet film, and the Lockheed pilots would retrieve the film as it floated. The canister of film floated down from space.
So as you can plainly hear, they've been, this agenda's been in the works. They've already had a plan for it. Pretty much, all they need is some catastrophic to implement this digital grid system that they're trying to move into. Which was, and that's why you talk about the Earth is overly populated. This all has to do with them want to set themselves up as God. Ride off in the sunset, as Elder, Dallas Camp, Elder Yashawamba said. They want to ride off in the sunset. But you ain't riding off in the fucking sunset, devil. You know, you will be fucking judged, man. You and all your co-conspirators, man. It's this Revelation 13:16, man. And see, in order to participate, you're gonna have to. And what is the beast, man? That's this beast system, man. Revelation 13:15, it says, and he gave power unto the image of the beast, man, that the image should both speak and cause all as many that will not worship the image of the beast should be killed, man. And that's that they pretty much they want to do away with Christianity and all that. They hear about Moab coming up with a Chinese Bible and all this other goofy ass shit. They want to do away with the true people, man. You know, as evil as these, man. I can't wait, bro, to be able. Once you understand, it's but you just gotta grow in this understanding, I guess, man. And keep your sanity intact. But anyways, Revelation 13:16 says he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. It says that no man should buy or sell, unless he either have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So you're not gonna be able to participate in being able to get your everyday, water bottles, your Disney ice, your Disney water, your Elantra, your Fiji water. You like drinking those things, your Mountain Dew, you know, your Coronas, your Heinlichs. I don't drink like that no more. What's that shit called? Heineken. You know, you're not gonna be able to enjoy your Doritos, your Cheetos like that no more. You're not gonna be able to enjoy anything on this that has to do with this system, according to them. If you're not chipped, man, because it's they're fugitives, so they want to be able to track you to know who you are, so that they become untrackable. And this was going to institute to us being beheaded, for the most part, and us being killed and martyred in the streets, man. Is that we don't want to turn to their system, and we don't believe in their system. So it is what it is, man. At the end of the day, let me get this real quick too, man, because it's what they do. Micah 2:1. Micah 2:1. It says, woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand, man. It's in the power of their hand to do wickedness, man. They don't even have to be seen. They just, call Joe Smo and have them, calls more Joe Smos, and then make a call to the president, and that shit get done just like that, man. You don't see the top elite. And, and guess what? They won't call either. That's how crazy. At the end of the day, the Lord sees these people, man. These top devils that you never see. It says, and they covered fields and take them by violence. All these different corporations, even Tesla, how they've been able to, set themselves up on certain islands, from colonialism, past colonialism, set themselves up and, steal resources and take resources and, only have certain scientists in these labs monitoring the shit, because they all on the same agenda. You know how this shit goes, man. It says, so they oppress a man in his house and even a man in his heritage. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise the evil. Against this family, who's that family? Esau, Edom, man, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily. It says, for this time is evil, man. And this is why we be telling our people now, bringing out these videos, going to highways and byways, the best, we pretty much doing what we can, man, to warn our people. And, they still not hearing the warn. Elders and apostles been doing the work, The other brothers in the other affiliate camps, they been doing the work. People still not hearing it, man. So you know what comes next. And that day, one shall take up a parable against you. and lament with doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled. He have changed a portion of my people. How have he removed it from me? Turning away, he have divided our fields, man. And see, that's what's going on. And that's how these Edomites are going to be looking. These low end Edomites. That's when they're going to lose it because they're going to be looking like, how the hell is this going on in my goddamn town? You can't tell me what to do with my hammer, boy. You know, that's them Edomites, man. They won't. They gonna fucking lose it, man. And at the end of the day, the Lord has gifted you this knowledge and this truth as far as, the foresight of the spirit that you need to be in when these things come down the pipe, man. You know, because it's inevitable. So I say that, leave that right there. I'm play a little bit more of this video, and I'm gonna close it out, man.
With a parachute attached to it. I'm not kidding, right? So this is NRO. They're in charge of everything above, right? And it was so classified, no one knew it existed for more than 30 years.
Is it true that NRO officers or people in the NRO have to be cleared through CIA, NASA, and something else?
That I don't know,
Okay.
but I do know they have their own
Air
classifications
Force, that's
on
what it
things.
was.
Yeah, I mean they all kind of work with one another, for one another,
Okay.
you know. I mean, one of the guys I interview in Nuclear War, Richard Garwin, who designed the thermonuclear bomb, drew the plans for Edward Teller, right? When Edward Teller couldn't figure out how to actually make the bomb explode, Richard Garwin drew the design that allowed it to, right? He's 93. He's a major source for me in Nuclear War in my book, right? He was one of the founders of NRO. So they all work part and parcel. But the point of this, when you say, is DARPA doing the most advanced technology? Maybe, but maybe there's another organization like NRO. I mean,
Right.
People forget there are.
And see, all that's to do with these different proxies, all set up really it was before the Cold War. All these different programs that was being set up, really these agendas set up during councils. These experiments was on Jakey before World War One, you know. But I'm gonna end that right there, man. Think that we got to the point. And with these data centers, be careful if you're in one of these cities where these data centers gonna be at. I wouldn't be out too much. I wouldn't be, buddy buddy with too many fucking people, man. Because best believe they collecting your data on you, and they need your data, you, just like they use you to build up, physically to build up Babylon. Digitally, they still gonna need your melanin for some odd reason. So they're gonna need Jake in a lot of these areas, man. They coming for Jake, man. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna leave that right there. Call halal Yama Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakabadash. And double honors to the elders and apostles, GMS, do well in peace and blessing to the hopeful elect. Shalom.